After interview,
No leg, no leg.
3 felons stabbed at Great Meadow. 6 men of rival New York gangs drawn into knifing every in prison yard. 1 dies of his wounds. Fellow inmate gives blood transfusion in vein. Warden puts others in solitary cells. And state prison inmate who stabbed a corrections officer at Great Meadows Correctional Facility last June was sentenced to 25 years to life Wednesday, the harshest sentence possible, prosecutors said. Wandies, 32, was convicted in April in Washington County Court of 2 counts of felony assault, criminal possession of a weapon and promoting contraband. He was acquitted of attempted second-degree murder, said Saratoga County District Attorney James A. Murphy III. Murphy prosecuted the case on behalf of Washington County because of the conflict in the office of District Attorney Tony Jordan. Prosecutors say Dees, already serving time for a 2004 murder in East Harlem, was trying to commit suicide by correction officer when he stabbed a prison guard last year with a 6-inch metal pick. Knives flashed in the yard of Great Meadows Prison here this morning in a flare-up between 2 groups of New York gangsters serving long sentences and, before keepers could stop the brawl, 3 of the 6 participants were wounded, 1 fatally as a result of the deteriorating conditions in New York City's jails. Day-long hearings have been held. National media attention has been drawn to the issue, and repeated requests have been made for Rikers Island to be closed. Violence, deaths, suicides, and attempted suicides have all increased in the jails, as have heat waves without proper cooling and restricted access to basic services, such as medical and mental health treatment, among other things. Great Meadows Correctional Facility. Great Meadows Correctional Facility. Conditions in many of New York's upstate prisons, which collectively house nearly 32,000 people, more than 5 times the population of New York City's jails as of October 1st, are just as bad in each of these areas, despite the fact that they receive only a fraction of the attention from either oversight agencies or the media. Great Meadows Correctional Facility. One particular prison stands out in this regard. According to the most recent available statistics, Great Meadows Correctional Facility, a maximum security facility in Washington County, has the highest rate of suicides of any New York prison, as well as the highest rate of suicide attempts, the highest rate of self-harm, and one of the highest rates of recorded stat violence. When it comes to several of these indicators, the numbers suggest a problem at Great Meadows that is even more concerning than the one at Rikers Island. The widow of the 67-year-old man who died after he was allegedly beaten by correction officers at Great Meadows Correctional Facility in Washington County has filed a federal civil rights lawsuit against more than a dozen officers who were involved in the
His name is David Reyes.
incident. John Wesley McMillan died while serving up to 50 years in prison after being convicted of trying to kill 2 Arab store clerks during separate robberies in 1993 in Erie County. His death in January 2019 occurred during a violent confrontation with multiple correction officers. The death of McMillan, who had schizophrenia and other mental health conditions, was ruled a homicide by a medical examiner, but no criminal charges were filed, according to federal complaint. 9 correctional officers from upstate facilities were treated at hospitals after a series of fights and attacks broke out last week, the union, representing state correctional officers, said Monday. Officers were treated for broken ribs, a dislocated shoulder and a concussion and other injuries, the New York State Correctional Officers and Police Benevolent Association said. Each incident culminated in the week New York implemented reform to solitary confinement in state prisons known as hold. The union believes the reform weakens facilities' disciplinary systems, putting officers
He's sitting right there doing
risk. 1 officer at Great Meadows Correctional Facility in Comstock in Washington County sustained a concussion when an inmate, who reportedly faked a suicide attempt, fought with officers inside his cell, a news release from the union said. 2 other officers at Upstate Correctional Facility in Malone and Franklin County had minor injuries after they attempted to stop a fight among 5 inmates inside a classroom. 6 more from Upstate Correctional were reportedly transported to Alisag Medical Center in Malone after they were injured by inmates, according to Nisgopta. The most serious of the injuries were 1 officer who sustained broken ribs after an inmate attacked him inside his cell, the union said. A 2nd officer sustained a dislocated shoulder in another incident, the union said. The union said more incidents between inmates and officers occurred throughout the week, including one at Clinton Correctional Facility in Dannemora. In that incident, an inmate violently attacked 2 officers in the recreation yard, the union said. 1 officer was punched in the face 7 times by the inmate before staff contained the inmate, the union said. Great Meadows Correctional Facility inmate last month attacked several officers after he refused staff orders to lock in his cell, the union representing correction officers said Tuesday. The inmate involved in a November 29 incident at the maximum security facility refused orders from officers to lock himself in a cell after returning from the mess hall, according to a news release from the New York State Correctional Officers and Police Benevolent Association. An officer processing mail sent to inmates at Green Meadows Correctional Facility discovered drugs hidden inside 3 Jergens lotion bottles. On Monday, Jan. 4, the officer was processing a package of lotion mailed to an inmate from Jamaica, NY. The officer noticed that the 3 bottles were inconsistent in weight. He put the bottles through the X-ray machine, which displayed multiple bundles inside the bottles. The bottles were open and 12 balloons were discovered inside the bottles. Albany man's third charge of possessing a loaded gun during traffic stop. Inside 10 of the balloons was a green leafy substance, believed to be either synthetic marijuana, commonly known as K2. The substance weighed 6.2 ounces. Inside the 2 remaining balloons were 30 doses of Suboxone. The drugs were seized as evidence. Conditions in many of New York's upstate prisons, which collectively house nearly 32,000 people, more than 5 times the population of New York City's jails as of October 1st, are just as bad in each of these areas, despite the fact that they receive only a fraction of the attention from either oversight agencies or the media. According to prisoners and personnel from monitoring organizations who have visited the jail in recent months, the institution has witnessed near daily assaults on prisoners by guards, inadequate protection from excessive heat, and persistent medical negligence. According to many convicts and their family members who spoke to the New York Focus and The Nation, when prisoners do disclose these abuses, their grievances are rarely taken into consideration. Great Meadows is even more concerning than the one at Rikers Island. The increase in self-harm in New York City jails has gotten a lot of attention, with up to 95 instances per 1,000 inmates attracting a lot of attention. According to the most recent available data, Great Meadows' rate is more than 50% higher than the national average, at 155 per 1,000 people. Stabbing occurred at about 4 p.m. at the Great Meadows Correctional Facility, about 60 miles north of Albany, after 2 inmates got in a fight, said James Flatteau, spokesman for the State Department of Correctional Services. One inmate apparently stabbed the other 4 times with a 5-inch steel shank.
Always do. We weren't fighting black, we were fighting white people. I don't know what the issue was.